Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty. Early in the morning, my song shall rise to thee.
Welcome to Mountain Views. I'm Reverend Dr. Angela Son. Ms. Annie Allen is with us this evening. She's a national trainer and the national site coordinator of Shalom Communities, which are faith-based community development ministries. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Allen.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What are Shalom Communities and how did they begin?
Communities of Shalom began in 1992 in the aftermath of the Rodney King riots in Los Angeles. During that time when Los Angeles was literally afire, it was burning, the United Methodist Church was holding its annual General Conference. And during the General Conference, one of the bishops got up and said, you know, we cannot, as Christian people, conduct business as usual at our General Conference while Los Angeles is burning. So out of this crisis, they suspended the conference, and all of the participants brainstormed on ways to create safe zones, to create health and healing and repair in communities around issues of violence and justice and race relations, etc. So communities of Shalom were formed almost 20 years ago out of the General Conference of the United Methodist Church.
And how did you get involved?
I was working on my Master's of Divinity at Drew University, and I was looking for a site or a church to do my supervised ministry. And I've always been very involved in social justice issues, and I have a history of working in community organizations and in politics, and I'm equally as concerned about how we live among each other. So I was looking for a church that had social justice ministries, and I learned about Communities of Shalom. In that case, I said, oh my goodness, this is my calling. This is exactly how we show God's love in the communities, out among the people. And it was really exciting. It's been tremendous ever since then. That was a couple years ago.
What from the Bible are you basing your ministry as somebody who works for people who are poor, works for people who are at wrong in terms of justice and so forth?
Well, too. My personal scriptures come out of the Gospels, where Jesus says, when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was thirsty, you gave me water. When I was imprisoned, you visited me. And whatever you do to the least of these, you do to me. And it teaches us that God is concerned about not only our relationship with Him, but our relationship to each other. So I feel as a Christian we have an obligation and a responsibility to work for those who are oppressed, who are impoverished, who are hungry or thirsty or imprisoned or sick. Those are the people that God calls us to be in relationship with, as Jesus was in relationship with the outcasts. So that's sort of my personal social gospel, my own personal theology. Communities of Shalom is based on the book of Jeremiah, Jeremiah 29, where God is sending the people into exile. And He sends through a letter that Jeremiah reads to the exiles, he sends a message, and the message is, settle down. Seek the shalom of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray on their behalf, for in their shalom you will find your shalom. And God is saying, build houses, settle down, plant gardens, eat what they produce. So God is saying even those of us who may feel that we're in exile, that we have to work in the communities wherever we are planted, wherever we are called, to work in that community for shalom, peace, for wholeness, health, healing.
You have two responsibilities. You are the National Site Coordinator. What do you do?
Yes. We provide technical assistance to Shalom sites around the country. We have currently over 105 Shalom zones. These are community-based, faith-led, usually a United Methodist Church or other churches coalesce with each other, and they form a Shalom zone. It's a faith-inspired community development initiative. So they're doing all sorts of work in the community, but that's the zone. I give technical assistance if they need help with making contacts with community development agencies. I help them with sending interns when we have our annual intern program. I help new sites become activated and older sites to be reactivated and re-energized. So I work in relationship with the 105 Shalom sites in the United States, and we have 5 Shalom sites in Africa. And that's what I do as the site coordinator, is I'm in relationship with them.
Can you tell us about one of the sites in Africa?
We have a site in Malawi, in a city called Mzuzu. It's a village called Mzuzu in Malawi. In this particular site, we're working with them. It started out as a church ministry where they had an orphanage, 100 children. The church just opened the doors, gathered these children into their care. But what they needed was not just a building, or not just food or money from us to give annually donations, that sort of thing. What they really needed to do was to become self-sustaining, to work with the entire village. So what we've done is we've gone in and worked with the people to train them in what we call asset-based community development. That means they work with what they have. So there's a local college nearby, there's people who are artisans, people who can sew, people who can plant. As it says in Scripture, plant gardens and eat what they produce. It's to be self-sufficient. So since then, we sent an intern there last summer from Drew University, one of the students, and they helped them create a sewing co-op. So now there's a group of women that are making clothing, they're selling the clothing, and the proceeds help to support the ministry, to help to support the orphanage. And there's a chicken farm. So we're helping them with economic development to support the orphanage. And that's the essence of Shalom, is using what we have. So this year we're sending another intern for 8 weeks, and they will be working to further develop the sewing co-op and also the chicken farm. And they may have new enterprises springing up there.
Well, you also talked about you being one of the national trainers. You're training ministers and religious leaders who are wanting to do this kind of Shalom zone, create Shalom zones. You help people create new Shalom zones and reactivate the older ones which have not been really working efficiently or effectively.
Right.
So what are some specifics that you teach them?
Well, the foundation of Shalom zones is asset-based community development. We call it ABCD. And what that means is every community has assets.